FOKAL was created in 1995, and it is a national Haitian foundation that is part of the Open Society Network. It was created, our mission is to promote the structures necessary for the establishment of an organic and sustainable Haitian democracy based on individual and collective autonomy and responsibility. So two complementary processes of emancipation, the intertwined individual and collective paths to discovering our individual autonomy while working collectively for the common good. Now, we often say that it was not immediately about creativity and artists and culture, but from the moment of the enunciation of our mission, artists came to us and they stayed. In that sense, culture, heritage, and creativity are completely embedded in our institutional identity. So FOKAL is often called a cultural foundation in Haiti, even though we are defined by this conceptual framework of being there to work on the emergence of an organic and sustainable Haitian democracy. With the artists, we have been working on the popular demand for justice, for education, as well as for the recognition of the historically marginalized smallholder farmers, their culture, and their stories, which is at the root of inequalities and the difficulty in Haiti for the emergence of the democracy we all hope for. And then we also have been accompanying the renaissance of Le Centre d'Art. Le Centre d'Art was created in 1944, and the building collapsed in the earthquake. It was a very traumatic event, and it was also an extraordinary effort from the community of artists, employees, neighbors, board members to save the art from the rubble and to transform the space in spite of the destruction. So today the Centre d'Art is again a place of creation, of shelter for artists in danger, for artists who are creating, co-creating. It's even a place that has been able to welcome Caribbean artists.
The Impulse Art Project is an artistic and social initiative which was created by Rubis Mecenat, or Ruby Mecenat, in partnership with Rubis Energy Jamaica at the heart of the Dunoon Park community in East Kingston, Jamaica. And just a bit of background, the France-based Rubis Mecenat was created in 2011 with a mission to support the development of contemporary artistic creation in France and abroad in the different countries where the Rubis Group has a major presence. And in the Caribbean, we are familiar with Rubis for their service and gas stations.
So Kingston Creative is an NGO, and it has really started active activities just in 2018. And so it has a very short history. We have several directors on our board. We really focus on some key programs, meetups that are around networking, art walks, murals, and training of creatives. Partnership is always our preferred model. If there is an arts organization that does something that we don't do, it's great to partner with them. We never want to duplicate a skill that's in the space. We have partnered with a number of organizations, from the Book Industry Association to different organizations that exist in Jamaica. Partnership is extremely important, especially in an environment where the arts are not respected, and an environment where there's low resources, where you can't afford to duplicate what someone else has already built. You really need to work together to maximize the value of both of your skill sets.
Basically, Beta Local work on different things, different angles. And its principal mission is to support art in Puerto Rico. which is very limited, the support. And one thing that happens a lot is that culture ends up not being supported. So Beta Loca wants to be a space where that holds critical thinking, interesting practices, and things where things can be rethought in terms of art production. The Caribbean is a difficult place, so communicating around the Caribbean is not as easy as we would like, but it's a weird position as well, because we communicate still more with the United States instead of the Caribbean. So that also cuts our relationship with Latin America. So we try to do all that communication, and we try to be very honest in our interactions. So Puerto Rico has been a neoliberal laboratory, a lab, and it's been happening for many years. So there's a lot of austerity measures taken, and it affects the cultural section, the art scene. And they start cutting all the budget in terms of health and culture. So we are in an independent space. We receive donations from NGOs and private organizations, and from not so much from the government, but we think, yes, we think that the government should support more. This organization, it is an institution that within a legal framework. So we have the capacity to do what any other organization does, and we can receive funds and distribute them. We've also generated some scholarships, but we also artists run by artists. So that's something very important for us, because we try to be flexible administratively, and that allows us to move freely.
The question of space ownership is extremely important in Haiti. And not many people that are creative have access to space ownership. And this is also one of the reasons why the Centre d'Art is so important, is because it is an exceptional situation that through a set of historical circumstances, they are the owners of their own space. It is a collective ownership. And this is why it is fundamental to support them and to consolidate the Centre d'Art, because this is where artists find sanctuary. Currently, the Bel Air, Noailles, and Grand Rue have been victims of the gang and police violence. And their workshops, their neighborhoods, their livelihood, and sometimes their apprentices have been attacked. One of them killed, shot dead by the police right in front of his mentor. And they find refuge in the Centre d'Art. So this is absolutely fundamental, and we need to consolidate that. Today, most of the collectives, most of the rising stars come from the poorest, so most marginalized sectors of society.
But unlike other art districts, which are created top down, say Wynwood, for example, in Miami, this community is actively creating the culture. So the risks of art washing and gentrification and displacement is huge, because it's not an abandoned area that you are now regenerating. It's an area where people are there, and these people are actively creating the culture as we speak. And for Jamaica, culture is arguably our biggest asset. And so we try and balance the dynamics of people in place in what we do, and the tangible outputs, as I said, that we want to see happen are for downtown Kingston to be a vibrant art district and a creative hub that focuses on developing the creatives who live there, but of course it benefits the creatives, from anywhere in Jamaica that they might be. There is a model in Jamaica that I've seen that is great. Rosetown is a traditional community of potters. They've had these historical deposits of clay for, hundreds of years. And so there's these Rosetown potters that use this particular clay. They are developing, they have a land titling program So this creative community, the Rosetown Foundation, is giving people land titles. So once you have your land title, nobody can move you off of that area, no matter how much it develops, no matter how fancy it gets. And they also have a development plan with the Princess Foundation out of the UK, which is to develop mixed use housing, as well as retail, as well as performance, as well as educational facilities for this creative community. So I really hold them up as a model of how you can do this development and avoid the gentrification and ensure that you have security of tenure.
The issue of censorship tends to come from a newly established, well, newly, let's say a few decades, newly established US-based Protestant churches, the Pentecostal, evangelical, that are opposed to certain forms of expression, to LGBTI expression, but more than anything else, against voodoo.
I was hoping that we would come to this issue of LGBTQIA and identity. Jamaica is very homophobic, to put it plainly. And also, you know, a large degree of our creatives are from the LGBTQ community. And a lot of the people that come to watch our art walks, you know, some are trans and will come dressed as they are, you know, and, you know, how do you create that safe space? And we also have Rasta, which, you know, Rasta is against burning out everything to do with that. So sometimes we have had conflicts in a street festival, you know, people were verbally attacked. I mean, now this is one incident out of 3 years, out of 36 art walks, one incident. We have always made it very, very plain that, you know, we're an inclusive space.
Something Andrea said about the issue of homophobia in Jamaica. We did a mural at a basic school for, you know, little children. One of the images on the mural was a fish, and in Jamaica, fish is associated with homosexuality for whatever the reason. So the image of a fish ended up being attacked. So there's a cultural issue that also needs to be addressed in terms of how we appreciate art and art language.
What we think is very important is to generate exchange spaces. And that's something that has always guided our mission. Offer these spaces to create these horizontal interchange conditions. So when people have something to offer and contribute, we can support them. So we're always looking for Better Local to be a space where we can generate and promote conversations among artists, even with people that are not interested in art, to get them interested. So we're always developing all these communication methods. Everything that happens in Better Local, all the people that collaborate and contribute, they're going to receive a compensation. That was not very common in Puerto Rico, but we're trying to make this effort very explicit so that anybody that collaborates with us gets paid.
So we, you know, spent some time kind of analyzing and, you know, seeing, you know, what is the solution. And we started with these meetups where different creatives groups, so the dancers would come together one day, the culinary people would come together one month, visual artists would come together, and they would articulate what are the gaps for them, you know. And we came up that there are 6 elements needed for creative economy growth. And this is also based on some research from other countries that are really monetizing from their creative economy, like the US and the UK. That we need spaces in the ecosystem. We need innovation hubs and networks. We need training programs, accelerators, and maker spaces. We need fit for purpose entertainment and performance spaces. And we need databases and online platforms so people can easily be found, that they can be accessible and have access to global markets. And we need funding. This means venture capital, loans from banks, an art fund. We do not have one in Jamaica. And grants, and people who are willing to invest, who understand enough about creativity, not just as entertainment, but as business, and who would be willing to invest.